आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं।
Good evening, everybody. Warm welcome. Thank you for being with us today. Prabha Khaitan Foundation is dedicated to socio-cultural welfare and humanitarian causes. It is a non-profit trust founded by the late Dr. Prabha Khaitan in the early 1980s. Based in Kolkata, the foundation is dedicated to promoting performing arts, culture, education, literature, gender equality and women's empowerment. It collaborates with caregivers, committed individuals and like-minded institutions to implement cultural, educational, literary and social welfare projects in India and also now overseas, I'm happy to add. I'd like to give a warm welcome to our author of the evening. I'm deeply grateful to her for accepting our invite to be with us here. And I know that she has come in a very busy schedule, which was thankfully is over yesterday. So thank you so much for coming. Mrs. Sathya Saran, she is the author of numerous books, including the short stories collection, The Dark Side and critically acclaimed biographies, 10 Years with Guru Dutt, Abrar Alvi's Journey, Sun Mere Bandhure, The Musical World of S.D. Burman, and Baat Niklegi To Fir, The Life and Music of Jagjit Singh. Her latest works include a biography of Pandit Hari Prasad Chaurasia and Ritu Nanda. She is currently the consulting editor with Penguin Random House and also teaches fashion journalism at NIFT, Mumbai, Kangra and Srinagar. Mrs. Saran also writes columns for the New India Express and Outlook.com. Passionate about writing, Sathya conceptualized and curates an offbeat writers' conclave titled The Spaces Between Words, the Unfestival held in Vijayanagar, Karnataka, and Ratnagiri, Maharashtra, India. She has been a stage actor and has also acted with Veena Pani Chawla. To me, it's more important because we claim her as our own. She has been a Nagpurian and she has been with Nagpur Times, and we've all grown up on the feed of Femina magazine, which she has been the editor of. And so we are very happy, and personally I'm delighted to welcome her and of course all of you. Over to you, Parvi. Thank you.
And Sathya, when I started exploring Sathya, the only title that came was Femina, Femina, Femina. And everybody who was interested in joining said, oh, she's Nagpur's, like Nagpur owns her like their private property. So I would like to know, let's begin with you, because I know I told her that we'll be talking about the book, but we all are interested in your journey as well. So where did your journey and how did your journey of writing started? We will all like to know.
I think it started because I didn't like my Hindi teacher. And I found her very boring and too highfalutin for me. So I started writing a crime thriller. It was called the Mystery of the Disappearing Fingerprints or some rubbish like that. And that's where I started writing. But
that's brilliant. So teachers are contribution in any way. So how's your association with Nagpur? Because everybody in Nagpur is interested in knowing. You were in Nagpur and you are acclaimed as Nagpur's pride. So you studied in Nagpur, you have few classmates here. So did you already started journalism before your being in the MBAs, or love to know your journey of starting the journalism and writing from Nagpur?
Well, my daddy was posted to Nagpur. He was in life insurance. He came as the branch head here. And we were staying in a very beautiful house on Palm Road. And then I met the man I was going to marry. And in spite of lot of opposition, we got married. So he was also Nagpur based. So I moved from Palm Road to Mount Road. So that was it. And then I had joined the university YMCA, Univise, in Hyderabad, where we were before, and I continued it here. And one of my friends there was a young man called Ashok Chandwani, who sadly is no more, very bright young man, who was editing the Hitwad magazine. And then he was going to join his fiancée in Canada. So I gave him a send-off dinner. So after dinner I asked him, I said, when are you going? And he said, Pata nahi. I said, what do you mean, Pata nahi? Dinner kha liya? Or Pata nahi? So he said, nay, you see, they're not letting me go until I find a replacement. And then he said, why don't you go? Just go and give the interview and you'll impress them. And then you can always say, I don't want the job. So please help me. So that's how I went to Hitwad. And I gave the interview. I had no experience whatsoever, but obviously they thought MA hai to theek hai. And I had wanted to do journalism and I came to Nagpur, but they had discontinued the course which was there in Hislop College. So I did my master's. So then when I went for this interview, they took me on and then they said, this is what you have to do. And Ashok told me that this is 4 pages of the magazine, this is what you have to do, edit it and bring it out. Easy enough, and then the bug bit me. So I never left.
How brilliant. I remember in one of the conversations with Monica, she said they were the most visionary couple of that time. Like you shifted to Mumbai and very gracefully was supported to shift to Mumbai and change the base for your career. And at that time, it was very impressive. Even women today get challenges when it comes to families. How did you rope in a man like that?
Then someone was watching over me. Yeah, no, I just one day, I was working after Hitwad with Nagpur Times and was very unhappy there, So one day I just picked up the phone and I asked Mrs. Patil, I said, do you have a job for me? And she said, well, I just have 3 resignations on my desk, so why don't you come? So I told my husband, I said, I've been asked to come, shall I go? So he said, हाँ जाओ, 6 महीना वहाँ काम करो, and when you come back, they'll say, it's like when you go abroad and come back, they think you're, special. So they'll give you a bow and they'll look after you well. That's how I went to Bombay.
Wow, and Bombay never left you. So beautifully, because we have been raised by reading Femina. I remember my mother used to go into these libraries every week, change a magazine and get a magazine, Femina, Filmfare and all of that. And you've been all over them. Like your journey with Femina has been 24 years. 26 years, my bad. And 12 years as a chief editor. And how was your journey? And you, as a personality, I see you as a change maker in feminism. So I would like to know your opinion about how feminism was looked at that time and what has changed now.
Well, my journey in Femina was a great learning. I had a good editor who was open to teaching people, not like the gurus in Hindustani classical who don't want to give away their secrets. She was open to teaching. She taught all of us. I learned a lot on the job, much more than I knew when I was working with Hitwad. And then I think when I became editor, it was a time to either do or die. They were planning to close the magazine when I took it over. And it was a challenge to me that can you make this happen? And luckily I again had the support of a publisher who was also a marketing man. And he decided, let's take this on. Let's try and see what we can do in 1 year. He told the bosses that give me a year. If I don't turn this magazine around, you can shut it. So this was the crisis with both Femina and Filmfare. And then he actually spearheaded a survey to find out why Femina was not selling. Why were the advertisements not coming in? Why were the readers not reading? And we were down to 63,000 circulation. And he found out that everybody thought it was very preachy, old-fashioned mother's magazine, grandmother's magazine. And all this was put on the table to me. And then we started changing it. I said, yes, I will think of it as my magazine. And I was then 30. So I said, it's a 30-year-old woman's magazine. And we took it over. No, I wasn't 30, I was 40. So I said, we'll think about it as someone younger than me, 30-year-old woman's magazine, and take it forward. And you won't believe it, in 1 year, that 63 had become 1,63,000.
Wow. Brilliant. So that brings me to the other question. What has changed in feminism?
See, feminism is, you know, what's the first term that comes to your mind when you think of feminism? Bra burning. Right? You're called a bra-burning feminist. You hate men. So my feminism was different.
Yeah.
My feminism was, yes, we stand up for our rights, but more important than rights is to explore your own potential and to do it in such a way that it doesn't threaten the man. Because the moment you threaten the man in your house, you're in a bad space. Then it is takkar. We don't want to cause a controversy in the home or a conflict in the house. No. A woman is part of a home, but she's also herself. This is what we told our readers, we showed our readers, we showed her ways to compromise, ways to move ahead, ways to get the family to compromise. And tell her children that, you know, the thing is, oh, you go to work, your children are neglected. So tell your children, be proud your mother's doing something. You can tell your friends in school, my mother is so and so, and they'll be happy. So we were changing perceptions. And I think that is the brand of feminism that I prefer.
Yeah. And during the journey, you really had conflicts around some marketing agencies where when they were doing the ads of especially the Fair and Lovely and all of that. Would you like to talk about how the position of you being an editor and the personality that you are had a conflict with certain challenges like these?
It wasn't a conflict, it was just that I refused to let any advertising, and I had the power at that time because the magazine was doing so well. I could dictate that I will not take an ad that talks down to women or makes them feel less than perfect. What was Fair and Lovely doing? Telling you unless you're fair, you're not beautiful. It was working on your weak point, right? And I said, that's not on. So I refused to let them. Whisper came in. Whisper, I realized, had dumped all their banned goods from Australia into India. And we discovered this when a lot of us were very thrilled to use Whisper because it was so light and, you know, absorbent, blah, blah, blah. But it was also giving us infections. And when we discovered this, they came to us saying, we want to do something with you. And I said, no, not at all. You are not allowed here. Because this is what you've done to us. And they actually stopped selling that brand in the market. So we had the power to dictate. Today, nobody has the power. Today, it's an advertiser's market.
And what has changed dramatically in that space?
I think there is, unfortunately, in magazine and print journalism, there is no passion left. It's all bottom line. It's all how can you make more money. And many of the publications are owned by people with political affiliations. Many of them are owned by business houses who also are looking at the bottom line. So I think that's where the trouble is.
Yeah. So you have one of the other things that I remember when I was growing up is Femina Miss India, which was one of the major highlights of anybody's life. Like we all used to sit as a family and look at all the Femina Miss India. So was that in your tenure, and how was that experience as a whole?
Okay, I can't take credit for this, but yes, it's true that the first Miss, the first winner in my time was, what's her name, Namrata Shirodkar, who came third. And then we realized that then there is something that we have to crack. And we worked on it, we set up a training program, we built up confidence in the girls, and then we started our run. We had 2 Miss Universes, 4 Miss Worlds by the time I left.
Brilliant. Now, how did your journey of biographies begin? I mean, like, you have done biographies of great legends who have been celebrated all throughout. So what brought you into that arena?
Well, I have always loved Hindi film music. I mean, my parents would say there's a stereo in the back seat, because my sister and I would be at either window singing songs loudly all the time, speaking away. So I've always loved them, and I've always studied them without realizing I was studying them. So at one point when I was in Femina, I was going through a bad patch. There was I didn't belong to a union, and the unions were after me because I had spoken up saying that they are brainwashing people, and they had said haath pair tod ke dak denge, that kind of thing. And so at that point I read an article which said, no, that was when I was doing theatre. This was happening when they were trying to push me out of Femina. They were trying to promote me to make money rather than because they realized I knew how to make money, and say you do less editorial work and more money making work. And that was making me unhappy. So when I read an article about Guru Dutt, I said, let me talk to this gentleman who seems to have a lot of stories. And it's so strange that that gentleman, whose name was Abrar Alvi, refused to talk to me on the phone. And then he said, मैं बीमार हूँ, मुझसे क्या बात करोगे, मैं तो अभी कब्र में जा ही रहा हूँ, and all that, He was 82 years old, and he said, बीमार हूँ, I'm very sick. Then when I was putting down the phone, it's an amazing story, I tell you, especially for Nagpur and all of you. He said, नाम बताओ एक बार और. So I said, Saran. He said, Saral. I said, ना, N, Nagpur. He said, Nagpur? अरे नागपुर में मैं भी था. तो I said, आप कहाँ थे? बोले, I knew some Sarans in Nagpur, वो मंगलवारी में रहते थे. I said, they are my in-laws. So he said, वो कहाँ है, ये कहाँ है, and he made sure I was not bluffing. And then he said, आ जाओ. And that is how my first biography got written.
That's why your owner's pride, your Nagpur's pride. So Guru Dutt and then S.D. Burman, I mean legends to a different level. Jagjit Singh Ji, and you said I read that you wrote Jagjit Singh Ji's biography in 3 weeks. 6 weeks. And 6 weeks is too less of a time to explore a life. So how did you...
No, I did not do it from scratch to finish. The writing only.
Okay. So how was your experience, and which of these biographies, which one, I know it's a very biased question, which one is the closest to your heart?
See, each of them is different. Each of them is written in a different way. None of them is written as a biography. In fact, S.D. Burman is written, it took 9 months to write that, unlike Jagjit, because I felt I had to write. There were already 2 books on S.D. Burman, so I said, "मैं नया क्या बोलूँगी? The man is dead. His family is gone. His wife is, in a old people's home, has lost her memory. किससे बात करूँ मैं?" So I wrote it as if I was S.D. Burman. So I have grown up in Calcutta, so I could understand, and then I found a little biography of his that had been translated, autobiography, so I got his voice. So I would at times, I would create scenes where he was thinking or acting, act out a scene, but everything is based in truth. And so I wrote it like that. So that was for me and for the publishers a huge risk. And in fact, the first ever review which came out panned the book. Said, what is this rubbish? I am disappointed. You can't write a book. You can't write a biography like this. But I wrote saying I have to make it interesting. Who wants to read about a man who's dead and gone, whose songs you sing but don't know whose songs they are? R.D. Burman people remember, S.D. ko kaun yaad karta hai? So I wrote it like that. And by God's grace, it has come out as paperback now.
Wow, brilliant. So also, did your background towards theatre, you are a dance, classical, you love dancing as well.
I learned folk dance.
Yeah, you learn folk dancing. You also learned trekking. You started trekking as well. So there's a lot of things in your list. Did that background help you in writing this? Like, because you said you improvised it in a way in your writing.
Yes, I think theatre did help because it puts in emotions. It lets you understand emotions. It lets you understand expressions. I think that did help. Yes.
How brilliant. So let's come to your most recent book, which is about the breath of gold. What a brilliant name. And it's about Panditji. And how did that came to your lap? Or I know that what is the story behind you starting that journey?
I wasn't going to do this book at all. I didn't think I was qualified to write about a classical musician of that caliber, that stature, you know. I mean, he's world famous, loved everywhere, over the world. I had been invited by him, by his family, to listen to Pandit Birju Maharaj. And I'm a big fan of Birju Maharaj, so I went to his little Gurukul in Juhu. And Birju Maharaj was telling stories, singing songs, playing the tabla. I mean, he was a virtuoso. He was doing all of this, and I was listening to him absolutely like Alice in Wonderland, you know. And then I looked around to see who else is in the audience, and I saw Hariji sitting there looking like Alice in Wonderland. I said, look at this man. I mean, he is a Padma Vibhushan, and he is so humble that he's listening to his friend narrating stories which he knows, as if he's hearing it for the first time. It's not none of that, you know, none of that attitude. I wonder what his life is about. So I immediately, because I was thinking as editor Penguin, you know, consulting editor Penguin, I messaged his son. I said, why don't you get a book written about your father? So he said, I've also been thinking of it. Immediately reply came. So I said, chalo baat karte hain. So we started talking. And then I said, I went with a list of names. I said, all these people can write a book like on him, and this is what it can look like. I took some examples, and they said, no, we've read your S.D. Burman. Because I had sent him a copy because he features in that book with S.D. Burman, IG and he. So he said, we want it written like this. We want the man to come forward, and we want you to write. So I started the journey.
How brilliant. So, before reading the book, I wasn't aware that Panditji comes from a wrestler's family. Would you like to, in your own words, describe his journey as a young boy?
Yeah, his mother died when he was about 4. Leaving him bereft, he was very, very fond of his mother. And his father was a Pahalwan. He was called Pahalwan Sahab. He was the most well-known, feared Pahalwan of Allahabad. And he wanted this boy to be his follower, you know. So he would wake him up at 4 in the morning, put oil on his body, take him to the akhada and throw him in and say, chal, lado. And Hariji says, कि लड़ना मेरा यही था कि मैं नीचे गिरा पड़ा रहता था and somebody would be sitting on me giving me a thrashing of my life. तो मैं चुपचाप उसको सह के उठ के चला जाता था. You know, this was it. But all of them used to go to the temple every Saturday or Friday to sing bhajans. And Hariji would sing with them, the father would sing, the uncle would sing, everybody would sing, Besur Sur, jo bhi ho, gaate the. And the Pandit realized कि ये सुर में गाता है सामने बैठ के छोटा लड़का. So he told him one day कि तुम एक दिन अकेले गा के सुनाओ. And then he realized कि अच्छा, I like what I'm doing, I like this music. It gives me a certain happiness, a joy. And then somebody moved next door who was a Drupad singer. And he managed to, he says I tricked him into taking me as a student. मेरे पास ना पैसा था ना हिम्मत थी. So I used to roam around singing film songs loudly around this house. And his wife, they were childless, so his wife would say, "Beta, idhar aa, halwa khaoge?" And she would give him sweets, she would give him some laddu, she would give him something. And then one day the man said, "ये कौन बच्चा है जिसको तुम खिलाती जाती हो?" बोले वो गाता है ना तो मुझे अच्छा लगता है. So he said, "गा के सुनाओ." So he became his student.
Yeah. And the beauty about the guru was he was singing, but he soon realized that he shouldn't be a singer.
He couldn't be a singer because he had only one octave. He couldn't go high, he couldn't go low. So he said ये classical music हिंदुस्तानी में नहीं चलेगा, तुमको ऊपर के पार तक जाना पड़ेगा और नीचे वाला पार तक जाना पड़ेगा, इसमें नहीं. But you have great breath control, तो कुछ ऐसा इंस्ट्रूमेंट चुनो जिससे ब्रेथ से तुम बात कर सकते हो. So हरी जी says मैं सोचा कि क्या करूं, एक तो मुझे पैसा नहीं है मेरे पास, खरीदने के लिए हिम्मत नहीं है, तो he said I chose the flute. And why? Because वो सिंपल है, सस्ता है, छुपा सकता हूँ पिलो के नीचे, फादर को नहीं दिखाऊंगा, and most important उसमें what he said नखरे नहीं है. It doesn't change with the weather. I don't have to tune it every time. जहाँ भी बैठो बजा लो. एक छोटी सी बांस कृष्णा बजाते थे, मैं भी बजाऊंगा. He says, and his first flute, he says in the book, was stolen. He saw a boy playing it. He kept it down to drink water. This boy took it and ran. And then he found क्यों बजता नहीं, मुझसे क्यों नहीं बज रहा, मेरे इसमें से वो आवाज क्यों नहीं निकल. It's hilarious. I know his stories are amazing.
Such brilliance. And the whole book is, you've said stories. The whole book actually signifies the unstructured learnings and the yearnings that he had, and that created the breadcrumbs towards his path of success.
Right.
Absolutely. So I think in the whole book, the one thing that I noticed was he was brilliant in creating gurus. He actually roped the best of the talented gurus, and he started with radio. I mean, like his journey of his first guru also was a radio, and then he moved towards more gurus. Would you like to talk about how what role that Air India Radio played in his journey?
Well, before that, I want to compliment you on that lovely term you used, breadcrumbs. Very nice, very nice, very visual. But yeah, he did not have gurus, but after this guru, he found another guru whom he heard on. He used to listen to the radio because he thought Jagjit did the same thing. He learned everything on the radio before he got a proper guru. So he was listening to the radio and he heard this man playing the flute beautifully. So he took his cycle and he went to All India Radio, found that man and said, "Mujhe sikha." So that was his first guru, and that guru was a very, what is it called, unconventional guru. He used to take him to the river side along with a few other boys. तो वहाँ वो लोग swim भी करते थे, खेलते भी थे, flute भी बजाते थे, खाना भी बनाते थे, you know, and then he'd take them to the मेला, चलो घूम के आते हैं. And all the father thought was बेचारा homework कर रहा है. Then he found another guru after that when this guru went away. So he found, and then when finally he became famous, he got a job in All India Radio, Cuttack, where he started playing. His director was very, very, very friendly, very creative. He still says, "Unke bina main kuch nahi hu." A South Indian gentleman called Krishnamurti, who told him, "You have a talent, tum compose karo." So he was composing for Kelucharan Mahapatra's dance dramas, you know, and then and marking a present in the mustard and disappearing. And so then he was sent to Bombay on a punishment posting. You know, go to Bombay and you will be lost, because all his other people got jealous and complained. But here he became very famous, and there he searched for a guru, the reclusive Annapurna Devi. And the story of how he gets her after 3 years to teach him is very moving, very poignant, and very beautiful.
We would love to hear that story as well, because that's the main part of the whole book, his relationship with pursuing her, and his relationship even at that age when he was as a disciple wanted to gift her something, couldn't in that incident.
Yes.
So would you like to share that story?
I'll only share that story, the rest they should read.
Yes.
If I tell you everything, you'll say, "Ab look, pad liya." No, there is a time when she falls sick and he sees she's coughing, so he goes down quickly and he buys Vicks for her and he gives it to her, and she says, "Ye kya hai?" So she says, "ये Vicks है, आप लगा लो." She goes to the window and throws it out. And says, "तुम मेरे डॉक्टर हो कि pupil हो? Disciple हो ना? डॉक्टर नहीं हो, चुप, बैठो." She would not brook any retort, question or interference from him. He had to be absolutely disciplined and listen to everything she said. And she would put him through many tests, all of which are in the book. Terrible tests. Terrible tests.
Yeah.
Our teachers taught us like that, would have run away.
Today the parents would actually stand up. They're like, wow, it's a different story. So how did Bollywood, I mean, like he is one of the pioneers of bringing classical music and composing into mainstream Bollywood fields. So,
But before that, I want to say that he entered Bollywood by accident.
okay.
At that time, it wasn't called Bollywood, thank God, it was called Hindi cinema. And he entered it by accident because the flautist who was recording for a music session for cinema was not there. They had heard him, Madan Mohan Sahab had heard him on the radio singing the morning raga for 10 minutes and said, "Use bulao." So he went in there and they were recording for Jahanara, Fir Wahi Sham, Wahi Ugam, right? So he played and Madan Mohan was so impressed, he said, "You stay here and play for all my songs. And whenever I'm recording, I want you here." So the news spread, he became so popular, he would leave home with a toothbrush in his hand because he didn't know when he'd come back. He was doing 3 shifts a day.
Wow.
Yeah, and his wife says he would come home, he would take out his wallet, which would be full of money, throw it on the bed and fall flat on his face and go to sleep. Na khana khaya, na baat kiya. He says, I never spoke to him for years because he was not there. You know, he was busy earning money and he bought a house, he bought a car, he did everything. But if you listen to any songs from 1962, which was his first recording in Jahanara, 64, to mid-70s, you will hear Hari Prasad playing the flute. Shall we listen to one song?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Can we listen to the first song from the film?
Yeah. Also, I remember
Can we have the lights off?
yes, somebody from the hotel.
They all vanished like thin air.
So the one that I remember is Subhash Guy's Hero. I mean, like even in my deepest subconscious, that tune is there of Subhash Guy's flute.
There's a lovely story on that also.
Is
On the
it?
book, Subhash Ghai gave me a long interview.
Is it?
Chalo, let's listen to this one and just listen to the flute. We'll only listen to one stanza.
Only the first one?
Now I'll tell you when to put it on. Concert also, at the end of it, somebody will say, "Oh, hero got it."
Shall we go ahead with this?
Yeah.
Partnerships with all these Shiv Hari and all of that. So even now at this age, I mean, he's unstoppable. He has lots of gurukuls where all these. I saw Ratan Tata supporting him with lot of helping with all the gurukuls which was not available with him. So at this current age and time, what is his routine and what does he vision his gurukuls to be ahead?
You know, when I had to do this book, my biggest challenge was to find Hari Prasad. I almost named it, "Where is Hari Prasad?" I couldn't find him. He is one day in Banaras, second day, "Abhi kahan hai?" वो कल बनारस में थे, आज त्रिवेंद्रम में है. हाँ. और फिर शायद वो जाएंगे कटक. It was like he was like Quicksilver. He was moving around all the time. Otherwise, he'd go and sit in his gurukul. He has 2 gurukuls, one in Bombay, in Juhu, one in Bhubaneswar. So finally, I met him once in Bombay, and he was very distracted. You know, because he had a class after an hour. He had given me 40 minutes, and he was हाँ वो तो ऐसा हुआ ऐसा इसमें किताब नहीं निकलेगी. ये ऐसे हुआ वैसे हुआ में I can't write a book. I need details. So then my friend from England was here. I said, let's go on an adventure. She said, what adventure? I said, let's go to Bhubaneswar and sit in his gurukul. So she said, yeah, let's go. So we went, and I found a hotel near the gurukul. And I went to him and I said, "Hari ji, मैं आ गई हूँ." He said, "क्यों?" I said, don't you remember we're doing a book? No? He said, हाँ, कर रहे. So then he told everybody, बहन जी आई है, nobody is to disturb us. And he shut the door and he gave me the whole afternoon for 3 days. Full interview. So that is where the book finally began.
That's brilliant. So what is the story of the second song that you want us to see?
Yeah, so when I did my book on Jagjit, Gurudat, S.D. Burman and Hari Prasad ji, I found out they all interconnected. Their lives were all interconnected. Hari ji played with S.D. Burman. There's a beautiful story in the S.D. Burman book which I will share. It will make you buy that book. S.D. Burman used to rehearse before he, all composers do, but he was very fond of first bringing everybody in, rehearsing the song, even while he was composing. So one day he was doing that, he was preparing a song, and Hariji was one of his flautist. And he comes in late because he's working in All India Radio Bombay. So he's come from Churchgate to Santa Cruz, and he's come late because वहाँ से छूट के आना मुश्किल है. So he comes with his jhola and everything. He comes running into the room and he says, sorry, देर हो गई, and he sits down. And all the musicians are sitting there, and they are all, and S.D. Burman says, कोई बात नहीं बैठो, and he's sitting with his harmonium and playing out the tune, saying तुम बजाओ अभी तुम बजाओ. And then he looks at Hariji and he says, खाना खाया? So Hariji says, obviously not if you've come running from the office, from the studio. So he says, ठीक है, continues. Because SD was very conjuice, no? He never fed anybody. But somebody inside has heard. And one dish of rasagullas comes out. SD Burman looks at those rasagullas. KC Das rasagullas from Calcutta. Each one of them has my name on it. Why is it come out into public? But he doesn't say anything. Calm face like a sadhu. So he continues, gao. Khao, thoda khao. Everybody says, no, how? When the guru is sitting, they come, no. So again they start. Hariji is looking at those rasagullas. Then he eats one. After 2 minutes, nobody has noticed, eat one more. Soon all khatam. S.D. Burman has seen, but kuch bolte nahi. When everything is over and the rehearsal is over, he is happy. He says, बहुत अच्छा हुआ, कल मिलेंगे. अभी स्टूडियो में मिलेंगे. And then Hariji is going, hey Hari, इधर आओ. Hariji says, हाँ जी, कल आना. कल लता जी के साथ rehearsal है मेरा. And I want you to know where you have to play. Because in the interludes like this, you have to play. So तुम पक्का कर लेना. So he goes the next day, somewhere else, it's not in his house. He hears Lata sing. He plays his interlude. And everything is happy. So when they are leaving, S.D. Burman turns to Lata and says, Lata, बहुत मीठा बजाया ना? So Lata says, हाँ, हम तो हमेशा मीठा बजाते हैं. नोए, इतना सारा रसगुल्ला खा के कितना मीठा बजाया? He says, वो बोले नहीं.
He was counting.
He was counting. So that is one of the very, very, so they all, Gurudat worked with S.D. Burman for Pyasa, and Kagas Ke Phool. Then Jagjit worked with Jagjit, Subhash Ghai, Amjad Khan, Hari Prasad Chaurasia, Shiv Kumar Sharma were all competing together at intercollegiate events. And one more person was there whose name I forget, in Delhi, in Talkatora Stadium, where Jagjit and Subhash Ghai became very close friends. Shivji and Hariji did not meet because Hariji was not there as a collegiate student. He was there as an accompanist for a dancer. So he was not in the education caliber. They met much later when they were recording together and became very good friends. They took to each other instantly. It was like a soul communion. Some people when you meet, you know. And he says, I never met Jagjit either. But Jagjit and he became very close friends.
Still time.
Now there are 2 books already on him. He's spoken to Nasreen Munir.
So because we have the time, we don't have too much time. We'll be taking audience's question, but before that, I have a question because you play so well with words. if a biography was written on your life, what would that be called as?
That's the author's job.
I mean, you are the one who are playing with golden words. So please think about it, just a suggestion. So we'll be taking questions from the audience, and Jyoti will be helping us.
I get the mic to you. Any questions?
Any
Maybe.
questions?
The first one is
My one question is that you started writing on your own, or you had to take some something to understand how to write a book?
no, I just wrote on my own. You wrote on your own.
Yeah, I would have.
Can I?
Yeah.
I want to write an autobiography of somebody, but I'm not very well known. So how do you approach a celebrity? Probably you could approach easily because you were the editor of Femina.
No, I
But a
remember I
person
was
like me-
turned down in spite of that.
Okay, so how are we supposed to approach the celebrities for these kind? Like what should be the credentials? What kind of experience one should have to go and approach to people like that?
See, you must have a body of written work. They must know that you can handle a book, because that's very different from an article. You know, which is why I was turned down the first time, and because writing a book needs a different discipline,
Yes.
and then interviewing somebody and writing a book needs an even greater discipline, because the person may not tell you the truth, may give you, and then when it comes in print, they will tell you, not him or her, you know. So I think all that is first the base, and then you will have to be able to convince that person that you will write it with all honesty and sincerity.
But some other books. In spite of that.
In spite of that.
So biographies and everything else, what is more difficult?
Fiction is most difficult.
Yeah.
Fiction is difficult. I'll tell you what, I'm translating something now which I'm finding quite difficult, because I have to take what the author has written, keep the essence and write it in an interesting way in English, right? And yet nothing should change. That's difficult. But I had to write an article yesterday, and I said, I think translation is easier, because you don't have to think. You just have to do. It's only the technicality, you know. You don't have to use this part of your body. So I think fiction is very difficult.
And which one of your books you have enjoyed writing most among all the books?
I think all of them. I'm sorry. I love writing.
My question is, you used two words, Hindi cinema and now it's Bollywood. How you will define it?
I hate the word Bollywood
Why?
because it's a little derogatory. It's just so convenient people use it. But what does it mean? Are we followers of Hollywood that we should call ourselves Bollywood? We're not. We are an Indian cinema. We have people watching Shah Rukh films in Germany. We have them watching Raj Kapoor films still in Moscow and in Yugoslavia. We have people watching Amir Khan in America. So what's the big deal? Why do we have to call ourselves Bollywood? They should call themselves something that sounds like India.
They should sound
Yeah,
Hindi
they should
cinema.
copy us, not the other way around.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
मीना का फ्रॉम मी टू यू मैंने कभी मिस नहीं किया, और आज भी ऐसा लगता है आंखों के आगे से फिर वही वैसा ही सब कुछ निकलता जाए नियम से रेगुलरली. अभी भी इच्छा होती है. आई रियली लव दैट
I'll send you a copy. It's come out as a book. It's out of print. I'll send you. Meet together in our masters.
एक बात और, लिखावट से हटके है, लिखने से हटके है. I would like to hear from you once for cricket and cricketers. Go back to
It
the
was more about doing mischief on the cricket ground. I was challenged to kick off a Pandu Havaldar's topi. That is why I went.
So this is about the feminism that you spoke about, ma'am. Do you see things moving in the right direction? Like I would like to see gender neutrality. Do you think we have made any progress in that?
Yes and no. If you look at Kerala and Tamil Nadu, for example, when you fill a form, they now let you fill mother's name, if not father's name. They have male, female, other in the form. So I think that is progress, right? That is accepting that the world is now very different from what we knew it. Borders have changed. There are no boundaries left. But if you look at schools sometimes, or you look at other institutions which are rigid about exactly what they want and they won't move from there, and you have to put down father's name, even if there is no parent, a father in sight, or has never been. And then there is also the entire regression that is happening against women. The whole, the films that are coming out that are teaching you that women are just things to be used. You can abuse them, you can use them, you can do what you want with them. I think that's very, very disturbing. That's very disturbing.
I have not seen the picture Animal, but I did hear Shobha Dey say that there is a dialogue कि क्या अगर तुम मुझसे प्यार करती हो something तो मेरे पैर को क्या मेरे जूते को छुओ या something.
He said the one he was dating.
Say loudly, no, Anita.
The hero Ranbir Kapoor, he said to Tripti Dhimri, he was dating for that day. He said, "Just lick my shoes."
Just lick my shoes.
Well, they're doing it to politicians. So it seems to be the norm.
This Animal movie has a different type of story and background. We should not talk about it.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It's an ugly movie, ugly.
No, I'll tell you, they're following the South model because South has made it big, and it's
on
very
this
sad.
stage, we should not talk about this. We are talking about legends.
सरन जी, मैं जानना चाहूँगी, आपने इतनी सत्कार मूर्तियों की कहानियाँ लिखी हैं, किसी की ऐसी कोई बात जो आपको व्यक्तिगत बहुत स्पर्श की हो?
I think उनका पैशन जो है हर एक में, हर इंसान, इन चारों इंसान में. गुरुदत्त when he made प्यासा was 24 years old. कितना पैशन के साथ बनाया है और कितना उस पे लगाव के साथ उन्होंने वो कहानी सोची, और उसमें भी बहुत अजीब सी कहानी है कि प्यासा की कहानी कैसे बनी. बनने वाली नहीं थी, और उसमें अबरार अलवी का क्या पोर्शन है कि ही न्यू अ सेक्स वर्कर हु वाज हिज फ्रेंड, जिसके साथ वो हर हफ्ता मिल के बात करते थे. और जब वो बिजी हो गए और वो उनसे मिलने नहीं जाते थे, तो एक बार गए, उनकी लड़की आई, उस सेक्स वर्कर की बेटी आई, बोली मम्मी बुला रही है, बहुत बीमार है. तो ही गोज टू मीट हर एंड शी इज गॉट ट्यूबरकुलोसिस एंड शी सेज तुम मुझे भूल गए हो, यू डोंट मीट मी एनी मोर, तुम मेरे दोस्त थे. मैंने समझा. सो ही सेज नहीं मैं हर थर्सडे तुमसे मिलने आऊँगा, डोंट वरी. शी सेज तुम आओगी नहीं. ही सेज नहीं मैं ज़रूर आऊँगा, बट ही गेट्स बिजी. And then Gurudutt had this habit of sending him to watch films कि ये फिल्म देख के अच्छा है तो इसे अडेप्ट करेंगे. उसे अडेप्ट तो रीगल सिनेमा भेजते हैं उनको एक दिन इन कोलाबा, and he goes and watches that film, English film, and he's coming back. वो बस में आ रहे हैं, ऊपर बैठ के, डबल डेकर बस में ऊपर बैठ के, and he realizes कि वो उसी गलियों से निकल रही है, कामातीपुरा की गलियों से निकल रही है जहाँ ये औरत रहती है. and he says मैं उतर जाऊँ क्या, मिलूँ क्या उससे. पर वो 12:30 बजे नाइट शो देख के जा रहा है. इसे उतर जाऊंगा तो घर कैसे पहुंचूंगा, ना पैसा है मेरे पास टैक्सी लेने. तो बैठा रहता है. देन ही सीज अ मैयत गोइंग एंड ही सीज हर फेस, ओपन फेस. तो उसके बाद वो प्यासा का सेक्स वर्कर प्यासा में आई, नहीं तो नहीं थी वो नहीं थी उसमें. व्हाट वाज इन द प्यासा स्टोरी वाज द स्टोरी ऑफ अ वुमन हु ओन्स art gallery. It was based on Chetna Art Gallery, who takes young artists, promotes them and throws them away. So this was प्यासा कि आर्टिस्ट का जो प्यास है वो ऐसे बदल गया, पोएट्री में बदल गया.
That's so beautiful. So much of emotions coming through Bollywood to us. Indian cinema, Hindi cinema. Big correction here. Hindi cinema. We were taking a last question. Yes.
Hindi cinema. Small correction. Small question. In continuation with what she was asking about feminism. Here we are saying girls and boys are equal. And equality hai, ladka ladki ho, this that, and then we are promoting reservations in education for girls, in Parliament, everywhere we are. So, do you think this is? I mean, we are talking about two things, two opposite
I don't know why you
things
see. I
simultaneously.
don't know why you see a contradiction there.
Yeah.
If you have two children,
Ah.
one of them who can run very fast and the other who can barely walk, would you not say, if we have to reach somewhere, तो पहले निकल जा, हम लोग आ जाते हैं. You walk slowly and go. When I am limping, I just told her, you climb up first because I have a broken foot. I know I'm slow, so I let people go in front because I'm coming slowly. But someone else who's considerate and who sees it will say, why don't you go ahead first? I'm not saying you're not considerate. I asked her. No, in the long run, for example, will say, आप धीरे-धीरे जाओ, हम पीछे आते हैं. You start off. So I think if you are in an unequal race, the handicap is required. That extra little bit of help, a push is required. It's not, a reservation is not, you're not doing them a mercy. You're giving them the advantage they never had for all these centuries. That is what it is. But if it is misused, and if it is used in the wrong places, like I believe in medical college, in engineering, these reservations can be dangerous if the student does not prove himself equivalent after the point. You entry le lo. Uske baad you can't continue to get low marks because tomorrow you will kill somebody.
Yeah.
That is there. You have to cut that reservation ka thing at some point.
That's a very beautiful perspective.
Thank you so much. Over to you,
We have last question.
And I'm afraid no more questions after this.
It's not a question, it's just a request. You said she sings well. Why don't you make her sing one song?
No, I get very nervous.
No, you must.
Would you like to read
Thoda.
this from your book only? Because what?
किसे जहां see how nervous I am. हम भरी दुनिया में तन्हा हो गए, तुम न जाने किसे जहां हो गए.
I would like to thank our hospitality partner. Before that, I would request for someone to come in from Radisson. Is the person? Sorry? All right. We would like to thank our hospitality partner, Radisson Blue, media partner, Lokmat, and of course, Shri Cement. Thanks to our charming guests and audience. Thank you for being with us and have a good evening. Thank you.
Before we,
Those of you who want Hari Prasadji's signature on the book, I have a rubber stamp. He doesn't sign back, but he's given me his rubber stamp.
we'll be doing it first. I would like to request somebody from Hotel Radisson Blue. Niharika is here. Oh. So Niharika from Hotel Radisson Blue to please come and felicitate our guest of honor. Yeah. Thank you, Niharika. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank attentive audience. We would be, we'll have a book signing after this. I request everybody to please be, come in a queue and you can have a picture and get a signed copy from her. And also a stamp that she is carrying that she mentioned. And yeah, thank you so much for being with us for this evening. Thanks a lot. And thank you for being, it has been my pleasure to explore your work and get inspired. Thanks.
खुशी की फुहारों से काहे जाने तू अनजान है, हर दिन पग चल दूर है जाता जाने कहाँ तू जाएगा, गोल है धरती और इस पर जो खोजेगा वो पाएगा, सांस भरेगा लंबी तो तू चैन मुफ्त में पाएगा, घर आने से डर जाने को बना नहीं था तू, आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गाँव, मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गाँव, मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गाँव, मेरी धूप मेरी